All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So my name is Logan Schwartz. My fire service career started in 2016, actually up here in New Tripoli. So I started out as a volunteer here. Um, we ran a decent bit of calls up here. So I was a college kid at the time that I started to ride. I didn't have the exposure to the fire service prior to coming to New Tripoli, so I was very grateful for the opportunities that New Tripoli gave me. 2017, I got appointed to the Borough of Emmaus Fire Department. So I started to work down there. I've been there for coming up on 10 years, which is a pretty crazy thing to me. Like time really does fly.
And that's paid position, right?
Yeah, correct. So Emmaus is a paid part-time fire department.
Cool.
So all the members down there, with the exception of 3 volunteers that we carry, are on the payroll.
Nice.
So being an Emmaus fireman kind of exposed me more to like the urban fireman mentality. So guys like Matt, guys like Donnie Riley, guys that were on the job at the time, they're the ones that kind of steered me in that direction to pursue a career in the fire service. So I ended up going down and testing in a place called Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I was appointed to the Anne Arundel County Fire Department February 20th of 2020. So I've been there for, just about 6 years now.
Wow. So you guys actually work together down there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, awesome.
yeah, we've shared the same employers for a lot of my career. I know you got a lot more time on the job than I do, but Matt and I have been together for a while. We've been good buddies for a long time. He was a groomsman at my wedding. So we kind of hit it off, initially in Emmaus, and then him and Donnie steered me down the path towards Anne Arundel. So when I got down there, right out of the academy, I got assigned to Engine and Truck 13 in Rivera Beach. When the Safer Grant staff came out, I shifted over to Engine, Tower, and Medic 30. I was there for probably about 2.5 years, and then for the past just about 3 years, I've been at the Jessup Firehouse, so Engine, Truck, and Medic 29 over on the west side of the county. I have a great shift. My shift is, in my opinion, one of the best in the fire department. The guys that I work with are fantastic. What led us to kind of, pursue this Fireman Fridays thing was ultimately, the passion that I could see from Matt, from Jared, and from Rob. The guys that wanted to get out, wanted to train, and wanted to further the Lehigh County Fire Service. Right on.
Oh, it's my turn. So I'm Matt Sadowitz. I live in Upper McCungie Township. I grew up in a 1 square mile McCungie borough. I grew up in a fire and EMS household. I grew up at the kitchen table listening to stories about going on calls and doing all this really cool stuff. So my decision in career was probably made for me at a very young age. My dad was very heavily involved in EMS. My grandpa was very involved in the fire department. So hearing all these stories growing up, you're like, hey, that's kind of cool. Like, I want to do that, right? I got to the age that I could take the EMT program, did that, volunteered at McCungie EMS for a little bit, ended up leaving there and going to Citroni. I went to paramedic school. While I was doing that, I was riding, volunteering at McCungie, and there was a guy, Ben Spencer, that was the assistant chief at the fire department at the time. And he's like, hey, man, like, you seem like you have a good idea what's going on. Why don't you come over and check it out? And I was like, okay, like, this is cool. This is really cool. Like, but I wanted more. So, moved up from McCungie Township, got involved with them, and I've been there for a while. I worked part-time at Emmaus for a little bit. Applied, got hired at Anne Arundel County Fire Department in 2013. Worked at some pretty busy places. Got to work on one shift that was probably the best I've ever in my life. I had guys from all different places with a lot of different experience. A lot of guys that taught me a lot that I thought I knew, but I in fact didn't. And I'm very thankful for that time. From there, I got promoted to lieutenant in 2023. I did some time as a roving officer. I spent some time as EMS supervisor, back to a roving officer now. Right now, I'm at the West Annapolis Firehouse. So it's myself, another lieutenant. We have an engine, tower, and an ALS and a BLS transport unit out of the firehouse. 11 people across the shift, so it's regularly hopping. But then we got involved with the Fireman Fridays stuff a couple years ago. And really what it was about was I'm not going to be here forever. So if I can teach the next person, then why aren't we doing that? That was something that was instilled in me a long time ago. Additionally, there's a little bit of a gap, between what goes on a job and what goes on in a career firehouse as far as execution. And I realized when I had my children, hey, I don't care if you're paid or volunteer. If something happens in my house, I expect you to go get my kids, go get my wife, come get me. And I wanted to make sure that the people in my hometown were able to do that. And I was going to do whatever I had to make that happen. And the same thing at any place that I've worked. So that mentality is kind of what led me to want to do the training stuff for everybody and teach, like I said, guys that, I don't know, like guys that need to learn these things to be successful later on. You know, as we do the Fireman Fridays stuff, that's really what it's been about for me. You know, share what I know, make those people better, and let them become better than I am.
So when I started in EMS, Matt was already there. I think you were an EMT, just got your medic, or you were finishing up school. How long you had your medic?
Just past 20 years, so 2006.
Yeah, I got my paramedic in 2011. So
yeah.
We worked briefly together. So he's been in the game for a long time. As far as I can remember, he was in EMS when I started, and he was still heavily involved in the fire department way back then. So it's been a journey, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and we worked with some good people there too. And you had Chris Beischel on here. So I learned a lot of my management techniques and stuff from him. I don't know if I've ever told him that, but like when I deal with personnel issues and how I'm dealing like daily at the firehouse, those are things that I picked up from him and from other people that we worked with, you know, and now I take those things and I apply them to what I do every day at work, how I deal with people, how I deal with situations, you know, and it was learning little things like that from people along the way that got me to where I am. So shout out.
100%. Shout out Chris Beischel.
Yeah.
We didn't know how good we had it when we had it.
Not at all.
So Fireman Fridays kind of just started as a way to get together, you know, with a bunch of different firefighters from different companies around the county, just a way to get together and get reps. It started about 3 years ago. It was a fall Friday night. I reached out to Matt. I reached out to Jared Telchea. And I was like, hey, man, like we got some young guys in the firehouse that are riding tonight. Like, do you want to get these guys together? You know, you bring your young guys. We'll bring ours. We'll get some reps. We'll get some, you know, real life scenarios going where they can get some experience and, you know, hopefully get their feet a little bit more wet than what they do in the fire school.
Yeah, I mean, it just started out as like a conversation. And then we had a handful of people, and then more people showed up and were like, hey, can we join in? And pretty soon, you know, there's 25 people standing behind us trying to figure out, hey, how can I get involved with this? So then we grew. We do quarterly trainings on Fridays. So we incorporate a little bit of everything. We'll do an engine company night. We'll do a truck company night, saving our own night. And then we have a fourth weekend that we kind of put it all together, or we'll intermix things together. But really, I think we kind of recognized that there was a gap. Like I was saying before, you know, you get a new paramedic that comes out of paramedic school, they can hop on the truck and go do whatever they need to do. They can run that, you know, normal run-of-the-mill call. You get people that come out of fire school, and it's so multifaceted that they're apprehensive as to which way they're supposed to go. So, you know, we try to take the basis of where they started from, what they were learning, reinforce those objectives, but then also throw in some real-life experience. Like, hey, think about this, and yes, you were taught this way, but this is a much better method. This is going to be more efficient. You know, and we just kind of went from there, and it just grew. And, you know, so now we got folks from all over that are coming. And
so what you're saying is you guys are like setting up multi-department trainings quarterly.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of volunteer departments in the area, they have trainings on certain nights of the week, mostly Monday. I feel like a lot of it's Mondays.
Mondays and Tuesdays seem to be the big days in Lehigh County, Northampton County as well.
Yeah.
So they go Mondays and Tuesdays, and then do you guys usually have your trainings on Fridays, or is it on whatever day works best, or when you can get the training ground?
Yeah, like we sit down and look at the schedule, and we go obviously by quarters, like I said, but we'll pick, you know, Friday during this quarter, Friday during the second quarter. We try to do it on Fridays because until you get set up and you get moving, sometimes it's late at night. So we take care of the setup and the tear down. But we go a couple hours in a shot, and like we start out with some kind of lecture and overview of, hey, this is what we're covering. We break into groups, and then it's like a typical company training. Like we'll do a demonstration or talk at each station, do hands-on, make sure everybody's competent in what they're doing, and then we'll just rotate around. So you get a little bit of everything. It's not just that you're here for one thing.
Awesome. So you're getting a lot of interest from younger generations in this, because I heard you say it was like they just get out of fire school. Maybe they don't have a lot of calls under their belt, things like that. So, maybe that one night a week, they want to do more. So they come out, hang out with you guys.
Right. So like in my past, most of the volunteer organizations I've been involved with, I've gotten into doing training. And the problem with running company level training is you can only move as fast as the slowest piece, and you constantly have new people coming in. So you kind of hit an area where you have folks that are in the middle that want to do more, and they're still helping the new people out. You get the more senior guys that are like, hey, you got to do something that piques my interest. Like, I'm kind of just standing here, with my thumb where it doesn't belong. And then you get the new guys that they want to learn, they want to do things. They just haven't quite got there yet. And not everybody that runs training programs at volunteer companies is a certified fire instructor. They don't always know the curriculums, things like that. So while they do a great job, and they definitely achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve, we're trying to take that to the next step and kind of bridge the gap from, hey, you're right out of fire school to now you're a really experienced guy, and give you reps and give you real life education as to how it goes. Like for an example, in fire school, you're not taught hands-on how to crawl down a hallway and search a room the way we're going to teach you to search a room. There's very limited time during that curriculum, and it's no knock to any of the instructors or any of the programs, but with so many people, you only have a limited amount of time for each person. So you don't get to dive in and really go hands-on and say, hey, Eddie, let me show you how to do this because I have to move on to the next student. And unfortunately, that's just a global failure of the instructional process. Where we get a chance to do that, our groups are usually 4 to 8 people, and we have 4 people at each station, typically as we're rotating around. And all but one person on our roster either has been or is on the job. So there's a tremendous amount of experience from all over the place. And we get that opportunity to say, hey, try this, do it this way, see if it works for you. So we're kind of hitting everybody and bridging the gap between, hey, you're new and you have the foundation, but we need to get you here if you're going to save people and you're going to make a difference.
Right. No, that makes sense. And you guys are doing this on your own time.
Yeah, correct. So this isn't
all volunteer, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we don't really benefit financially from this at all. You know, we don't collect an entry fee from, guys that want to come out to train. Our big thing is we just want to advance the fire service in the Lehigh Valley as a whole, and training is the best opportunity to do that. Bringing the experiences and the practices of the instructor cadre that we put together through the years, having those guys that are, some of them are walking encyclopedias of the fire service from over 30 years of experience, and having those guys being able to preach and teach to the young guys that maybe had just graduated firefighter 1, it does wonders for their confidence, and then gives them the experiences of repetitions that are more appropriate than what you would see in a firefighter 1 curriculum.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, so like as we were moving forward with the Fireman Fridays and growing, it was pretty evident early on that it's a lot to cover, right? Between logistics and scheduling and everything that goes into it. So Logan and I talked pretty early on, like, hey, we have to include other people in this, like other people. So who do you want? So the first person that we approached was Rob Wesner. Rob's a younger guy.
I know Rob well.
Rob
Worked with him for years.
Very into the fire service. So he's real big on like, hey, I'll help you out and teaching other people too. So, okay, let's start with him. When we sat down with Rob, we're like, hey, we're growing this. You're the first person that and we had a list, of course, of people that we wanted to talk to. Rob just happened to be the first person to come along.
Station 3 guy?
He used to be a live-in at Citronia, but now he rides pretty heavily at Greenwalds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we approached Rob first, talked to him. He was immediately on board. So we're like, okay, check, got one. But it's still a lot for 3 people. So if we can have another guy, and you reached out to Jared.
Yep. The next person we approached was Jared Telchea. So Jared is another 100% homegrown, Lehigh County guy through and through. So he started his fire service career at Greenwalds a number of years ago. He took a position in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. So he was a fireman down there for the better part of 5 years. He decided to move home, and he became a career fireman in Berwyn in Chester County. And after that, he recently just took a position with the Defense Logistics Agency, a federal fire department over in the Harrisburg area. Real heavy on fire duty, so he's definitely a very happy cat hanging out over at DLA with those firemen. But Jared was one of the top guys that we wanted to approach to get into this, because Jared, not only does he ride heavily at Greenwald's, he also prides himself in running a lot of like the rookie school programs and like their probationary firefighter, skill testing stations and everything like that. So Jared, prides himself on preparing that next generation to be better firemen. So, with that, 4-person crew that we assembled, we felt confident that we could then build out our instructor cadre, a little bit further with more individuals and everything. But the 4 founding guys, being myself, Matt, Jared, and Rob, we were the ones that really kind of took the bull by the horns and tried to tackle this whole project of building a training organization.
I think one important thing when we selected people was we wanted people that we knew, that we were friends with, that we could trust, but not our close confidants. You know what I mean? Like, I've been friends with Jared and Rob for a long time, but they're not like my best friends previous to like getting involved in this, because we had to make business decisions. You know what I mean? And at no time do you want something like that to appear like the good old boys club.
Yep.
So it's very hard, as you know. Hey, like, we're really good buddies, but now I got to come talk to you about this. And now we have everything else that's involved. So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, was we wanted guys that we were close with, but not too close. It had to be a fine balance.
Right. And the big thing was, like, we didn't want to pull, the founding 4 were never supposed to be from all the same firehouse. So Matt being a 56 guy, me being a 7 guy, Jared being from Greenwald's at Company 11, and Rob being from Citronia and, later on Greenwald's, having those different backgrounds and different experiences from different areas of the county was kind of big. We just didn't want to put all our eggs in one basket and pick all guys from the same company. So having diversity in the instructor cadre and the founding 4 was a big thing for us.
We're sitting here with 2 career firefighters, right?
Yep.
You work paid positions, and throughout the end of my EMS career, I had a lot of young people that came through, and they're like, I want to be a paid firefighter. I want to be a paid firefighter. And it's not the easiest thing to accomplish to get a paid position. I can't really give you the numbers or quote the numbers for like Allentown, for example, right next door to us. Like, they have 1,000 people apply, or is that what the numbers are at? A couple hundred at least.
I can tell you that I applied a couple times and I wasn't even close to getting to the top of that eligibility list.
So without any certain department, like, the process is usually like a written test and then physical agility. Do you have to pass like the written test? And where I'm going with this is, a lot of young people say, "Oh, I'm just doing this EMT job for now until I get that paid fire job." And there was a lot of guys like that. And I said, well, hey, listen, you want to know who I see getting hired in those paid positions? EMTs, yeah, but it's those paramedics where they can do the fire or the medic job, the fire medics. I don't know what the proper term is these days, but I try and have them conversations with them like, hey, you should try and take it and train and learn as much as you can and get those certifications, because that's who I see stepping in them roles in them paid departments.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some really good advice. At least for our process, you take first of all, when you apply, you're looking at like a year turnaround for the application time, most likely until you sit for a written test, until you go through the process and so on and so forth. And then it's just going through the process in general. But a lot of places, especially out west, if you're a paramedic, a lot of times it's bonus points on a test. The benefit to that is, in our department, it's more of a monetary thing than anything else. Like, you're going to get paid more to be a paramedic than you are just a fireman. When you come into the fire department, speaking from my personal experience, obviously I came in and I was already a paramedic. It wasn't an aspect of the job that I had to learn. I had the basic skills. I knew what it needed to be done. It was one less thing off my plate as a rookie in the fire department, where I left an organization where I was one of the top 6 people in the organization, seniority-wise, and going down to being dirt, Like, now you're nobody. You're at the very bottom. So you have to learn the new company. You have to learn the people. You have to learn the process and everything else. It's a lot to take in. So if there's one thing that you can do and do well previous to going there, I mean, that's a home run as far as I'm concerned. It's one less thing off your plate so you can really dive in and focus on some of the other things that are just as important, if not more.
So, Matt, we're going to start with you here again.
Okay.
Matt, what advice would you give to a young, eager person that is really looking to get a career in the fire service?
So for my path, I went EMT, paramedic, and started applying, but I also got into the fire department late than I think some of the younger folks do. I guess there's a stigma with some folks of, hey, I'm part of the fire department, I don't want to do the EMS part. The fact of the matter is the largest percentage of calls we run have to do with EMS. More people are sick than we go to fires, and that doesn't matter where you work, anywhere across the country. So that's going to be part of your job, whether you have the training or not. You have to kind of ask yourself the question from jump is, do I want to help people or do I not? What am I really here for? If you're here for a cool fire truck ride, that's cool. Go join your local volunteer fire department and have fun. If you're really here to make a difference, and you have to be good, not just at firefighting, but you got to be good at EMS and you got to be good at rescue, and you have to be a well-rounded person. So, if you're looking to get in, understand that that's part of this. Our department specifically, you will go to paramedic school. They want the best. So, many other departments are like that too. So if you know that that's something you're going to have to do later, if you get the opportunity to do it now, do it in your hometown where you have a lot of resources to help you and you can get a good amount of experience, especially in the Lehigh Valley, go ahead and do it.
My biggest piece of advice to young guys is probably to stay the course. Getting hired, on a career fire job doesn't happen overnight. In most places, you're looking at probably a minimum of a year from the time you drop your application till the time you're standing in the fire academy. So I started applying to career fire departments when I was a freshman in college. So I was relatively young. I was trying to get on the job. I didn't get hired until after graduation, and I tested at a battery of places. I tested in Allentown, I tested in Anne Arundel County, I tested in Baltimore County, I tested in Baltimore City. I tested all over the place to just try to get that one lucky dart to hit that bullseye to get hired.
You're going to go through on average like 5 to 8 places that you're going to apply to and test before you get a phone call saying, hey, do you want to come work for us?
So they look for that. Like, have you applied? Have you tested?
Yeah, so one of the questions on... I don't know. I mean, as far as other departments asking like where you have applied, I would assume that's more just along the lines of like a vetting process.
So let's go. Maybe I didn't hear it, but like, why are you saying that like you're going to apply to that?
So you got to look at the pool of applicants, right? So like I applied at Boston, I applied at FDNY, I applied in Seattle, I applied for LA County. I tried to diversify myself as much as I could. Anne Arundel County was the first to call. So I went to work there. While I was in the fire academy, I had 2 other places call, but I was so far down on their list that by the time they got to me, other people called. So it's multifaceted how you have to think about it. Like, you're not just going to go and take a test and get hired by Department A. It may take you to get to Department F before you are somewhere on that list where they are ready to hire that amount of people. So if anybody thinks that they're going to walk into ABC Fire Department and test and get on a job, statistically, that's pretty slim. Especially for something, a department that's not necessarily EMS driven. So like we talked about before, if you're a paramedic and you get bonus points, that's great. You get military points, even better. So there's other things you can do to improve yourself. But statistically, I think it's between 5 and 8 that you apply to on the career side before you get your first phone call. Some guys get lucky and they get it before that. But
what advice you would give to a young person that wants to get a fire job?
So my biggest piece of advice is just stay the course. It's going to take you a while to get hired in departments. The processes take a long time. They vet you. You sit for a written test. They test your mechanical aptitude. They test your aptitude as far as understanding like simple math, simple, people skills. Then they do your physical agility. You sit for a chief's interview. They do a background process, and then they give you that conditional offer.
At any point, do they look at like transcripts or high school grades or anything?
Yeah. So I mean, when we did our background process in Anne Arundel, this is how it was for mine. I don't know about you because you're 7 years senior to me down there. When I did mine, I had to have my official transcripts from college, my official transcripts from high school. Any other kind of education that I took, they wanted to see transcripts from that. They just want to know that they are making a good investment in you by your history, your references, your transcripts, all the things. So they vet you to make sure that if they're going to put you in a position to be a firefighter for their organization, they want to know that you are going to be a good candidate.
So if you're a huge turd in high school, like that might put the kibosh to you getting even considered at some of these departments. I think it makes sense, right? Like anything else, they look at them to get into paramedic school or nursing
Right.
school. Like,
Yeah.
you guys are, you're doing a hard job and it's not easy, and you're gonna want somebody next to you that you can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and the biggest thing was staying the course. Like we probably had between 6 and 8 guys that come to Fireman Fridays on a regular basis that are sitting on the Anne Arundel County the Anne Arundel County Fire Department hiring list. My biggest advice to those guys, because they text me, they call me on a regular basis, like, hey, what are you hearing? Hey, do you know when the next class is? Hey, what do you know? And my biggest thing is, man, just stay the course. Keep taking tests. Keep applying yourself, and stay out of trouble. That's the best way that you can that's the best thing you can do to put yourself in a position to get on the job.
Any kind of tips, certifications, something to focus on to give yourself a better chance to get some of them phone calls?
Sure. Well, I think, like what Logan said about it takes a long time to get hired, and we talked about that before. That is all time that is in your hands. So go to additional fire school classes, go to paramedic school, do other things that are going to prepare you to do that job. It's 20 and out isn't anymore. Guys are there 25, 30 years. So when somebody goes to hire you, they're looking at a 20-year investment, a 25-year investment. So be that person that is still going to be there at that time, and not just be the lowest minimal employee. Make sure that you're preparing yourself that, hey, I'm getting hired, but I want to ride the front seat of the fire engine, or I want to ride the chief's car, or I want to be the person making policies and doing decisions, and strive to get there, but prepare yourself.
Awesome. Logan, are you EMT paramedic?
Yep. So I am a EMTB.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
And you went through that Anne Arundel, or was that before you got your even paid position at Emmaus?
So before I started in a fire department with Nutropoli, I discovered the EMT program. So I was doing the ROTC program at the school that I was attending. And my big thing, going home for the summer was, all right, if I'm going to be, commissioned as an Army officer in this case, I want to be, the best tool I can to my soldiers. When I took the EMTB program down at EMI, I took it with probably about 10 to 12 guys that were going through the Allentown Fire Academy. And those dudes made such a big impact on me to the point where I kind of pivoted what I really wanted to do with my life. Like, I was dead set on going to the Army and wanting to be, an Army officer. But being around those guys and being around firemen that were extremely motivated to be in the position they were in, it definitely rubbed off on me to the point where I decided that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to pursue. So, being an EMT prior to showing up to a fire department, it definitely helped. It gave me a better idea of what I was really going to get myself into, being that, today's day and age, fire departments are extremely heavily EMS driven. So having that, kind of in my back pocket going into all this was a good thing.
Nice.
I was definitely more comfortable being an EMT prior to getting in the fire department.
So like I mentioned, I know Matt, back in the day when I started running EMS in 2007, I wasn't even an EMT then, I was paratransit.
Yeah.
And then I actually tell the story to all my students. I teach high school, and I tell them about how Mr. Boyle failed out of EMT school the first time he went. And, I hear what you're saying. And
Hey, man, I failed out of paramedic school the first time, too.
yeah. And people, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because like that moment when I failed out on the last test of the EMT program, and that was my moment. I was like, oh man, like
I was 18 years old and had other things in my mind, and I wasn't paying attention to myself.
Me too. But I like, it was something, I was going to that class and I was like, oh, I'm doing something because I know I got to get a job. I wanted to be in healthcare, but I wasn't sure. But when I got kicked out of that class the first time, I was like, I was like, I can remember hanging out with my friends that night, and I was just upset. And I was like, you got to get your head out of that place you don't want it to be, right? So,
Yeah, no doubt.
I signed up for the same class. I graduated like top of my class the next one, but don't give me too much credit because I literally just failed out of it the class before. and that was what, kind of set me off. It was like, now you have a certification, you have a job that matters. Like, you don't want to be out drinking alcohol with your friends because you get pinched and it's like you lose something, and then you take that next step and you get your paramedic and you got that patch on your arm. You work so hard to get it, and then like you
in
guys,
an instant, it could be taken away.
right? Just bad decisions, and then like fire guys, like you got a tough job, and EMS is a tough job. It all is. And like, I don't like to sit there and dwell on like how hard everything is. Like we all know what it is, but you're going to want quality guys next to you in both realms. So
Absolutely.
Very much so. Very much so.
yeah. So I was going there to a place too. I was like, so you started in EMS and then you I remember when you left and went to Anne Arundel County. Is Partnope still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell him I said, hey, what's
Where's
up?
he signed at now?
Shout out Nick Partnope.
He's what, 33? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he on Donnie's shift?
He might be.
He's either 33C or
33.
33D. Either way, I mean, running into guys, there is a large amount of folks that came from the Lehigh Valley that are now Anne Arundel County firemen.
Yes.
Matt was the first to go down there. He kind of blazed the trail going down. Donnie Riley, big Emmaus guy.
I'm gonna give Benny Wolford that one.
Yeah.
Was originally
Oh, yeah, that's true. Benny was a Fogelsville guy first, and then he went down.
I think it's a good point. I think it's something to bring up. Like, good for you. I mean, it's also something to be said about the fire departments in the Lehigh Valley because you went down there first. Like I said, I remember when you went, and then another guy went down there, and then I hear of other guys getting hired down there. And literally, they could pick firefighters from anywhere in the world. And like,
Yeah, we get applicants from all up and down the East Coast.
There's young kids all over the place that are like, I want to be a paid firefighter.
Yeah.
They can literally pick. But how many guys did you just name that are from Lehigh County Fire Services?
I think we have a grand total of either 6 or 7 now, right?
Right. And outside of, well, Donnie and I got hired back to back. But
Yeah,
outside
then
of
you had-
myself, him, and Benny originally being from here.
So
There's probably a pretty good gap in between.
Benny, you, Donnie, Partnope, Culp, myself, Hampshire. No fireman.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's something to be said about that? Like, I always felt that a lot of people in this area are lucky with the emergency services that they have. Like, is it like that all around? Like,
I think this is a very unique area. Like, there's a lot of opportunity if you can find it and you're aggressive enough to go get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the one part that I learned is you can't be afraid to leave.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean-
you want to keep dreaming bigger. You have to do that. Like I went from a 1 square mile borough and I moved somewhere a little bit larger. I became part of an organization that was larger, but I wanted more. So where do I go?
We ended up down in Anne Arundel where we have 1,000 uniformed firemen across 4 shifts. To have that number of personnel, like that volume of firefighters and paramedics, compared to anything in this area, anything really in this state, with the exception of the city of Philadelphia and the city of Pittsburgh, like you're not seeing that in Pennsylvania. You go down to Maryland, you look at Prince George's County, you look at Howard County, Frederick, Anne Arundel, D.C., Baltimore City. You get
Anything
exposed
about
to
there is like you go to a fire and you have a fire engine from this county and a fire engine from that county
Yeah.
and a fire engine from ours.
When we run fires in Laurel, man, you got fire engines from Montgomery County, Howard County, Prince George's County, and Anne Arundel. So you got 4 different career fire departments, or realistically 4 different combination fire departments that are working together on a fire ground. That you try to do that in Pennsylvania, and that would kind of be a little bit of a cluster. But down there, it's relatively seamless because down there we operate in an SOP driven system. Everybody has a predetermined assignment that they know what they're coming to do. We have 5 engines, 2 trucks, and a rescue squad, at least in Anne Arundel. Those 7, 8 companies that are coming, they all know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Whereas being up here in a command driven system, you don't know what you could be getting yourself into coming down the road.
Okay. It is really nice pulling up, knowing what you're supposed to do and not hearing, can you give me an assignment or what do you want me to do?
okay, so those are things I don't know. I've never been in the fire service.
Yeah, and from working in EMS, like, hey, we're going to this fire call and I'm on like whatever operating channel they are, and you're constantly like, we're 3 miles out. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I've
I've heard it. Yeah.
Right. And that's not knocking anybody. It's just if the system's not broken, it's working for you. You keep going.
So you guys are stationed in different places, working for the same fire company.
Yep.
Right. And then you guys go to a job. If you have to go and help his department at a job, you already know what you're doing when you show
I have
up.
to go to his end of the county.
Yeah, that's a very
big.
cold day. So he's down in the 3rd Battalion, like
Lehigh-
right around the. I mean, Anne Arundel it's a very different animal because you can be working in a very urban area up in the 1st Battalion on A shift, and then you take overtime on B shift, and you're going down to the 3rd Battalion, working in farmland, and it's a very diverse department, which is really cool. And anything under the sun that you want to do, in the fire department or EMS, you can do in Anne Arundel. If you want to go, be a fireboat crewman, be a Marine mate. If you want to go be a special operations guy and hang off the side of the Bay Bridge, we got a spot for you. If you want to go be a diver, we have 534 miles of shoreline. Like, Anne Arundel County is really a very diverse place.
Nice.
We send a ton of people to paramedic school. We send every single member goes through the EMT program, in the fire academy. So you get that diversification via education in Anne Arundel. Anything you want to do, you can pursue, which is really cool. This year, we run 4 flagship events at Emmaus. So in March, we have our Making the Grab event, which is like strictly focused on victim removal, on making rescues, on being able to affect those rescues under stress. So the premise of that night is just to hustle and to understand, that there may be better ways out there to rescue somebody, whether it be from a ground ladder or a down and dirty drag or whatever it may be. The second event we run is a engine company fireman night, which is strictly like the nozzle firefighter position. Understanding, different techniques that you can use to stretch, to do all the right things as the nozzleman, understanding, what nozzle you're going to pick, what situation, things of that nature. We have truck company tactician night. That is a very heavily into vent enter search, the search company fireman, and then vertical ventilation. So that is a very physically demanding night that we have a lot of fun, putting these skill stations on and running for everybody that wants to come participate. And then the night that really kind of brought it all together is our last event, and that is our Saving Our Own night. The East Coast has been no stranger to tragedy and no stranger to line of duty deaths in the recent years. So, with Firefighter 1 and the firefighter survival programs, there is a gap and there is kind of a lull. You take those programs and then what? You can do those drills at a company level, but having, the stressful scenarios and putting it all together to where you're, removing a firefighter from an IDLH, whether they're incapacitated from, traumatic mechanism or, whether it be a medical issue, removing them from that IDLH, having, a pit crew style CPR where you're delivering, high quality care under a very stressful situation. So we drill very heavily on that. We drill very heavily on the high point kit, removing a firefighter from like a larger obstruction in front of you, out a window or, whatever it may be. And our mentality with that is you have to be, obviously being a firefighter, you have to be an expert at rescuing trapped civilians, but you need to be exceptional at saving our own. So that is where the title came in, for saving our own and everything. We've all seen all the terrible things that have happened in the fire service as far as, losing members over the past few years. And if we can do, even just 4 hours of training like that can potentially spark something in somebody's mind to take back to their fire department or to take the drills and run them on their own time. Those things, you never know when it's going to come in handy for somebody that's in one of those terrible situations.
So we're definitely going to keep going with our 4 flagship events. That's pretty much non-negotiable for us at this point. But we've had a lot of folks recently that have taken some of the things that we've done at those trainings and going back to their own company. So everything that we do, I put together lesson plans for us. We have different packages. So I think the next thing is going out, maybe doing some speaking events, if we can, get and do some more of this stuff. Yeah, and getting out to like the individual companies and saying, hey, like, we're here to offer this service. We're obviously not charging anything. We're not taking anything from it. We're just wanting to make you guys better. So I think that's really the next step that we're looking to take.
April 17th, Matt, Jared, Rob, and I will be presenting a 1-hour lecture format with a hands-on demonstration of our Saving Our Own Firefighter CPR.
Where's that at?
So that's going to be
the sales.
Yep. So
is that the conference?
Yeah, the Lehigh Valley Emergency Services
11th.
Conference. No, it's the 16th and 17th of April.
Oh, we're patched up. We'll be there. Come check it. Come see us at the
Love
expo.
it. Love
Yeah,
it.
come over.
See you there, bro.
So the other thing I wanted to say is like, Patched Up would be really interested in coming out and checking you guys out, like when you guys are training, if you'd have us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll come check out everyone and what you guys are up to out there in the training grounds.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'd love
Come
that.
on.
More the
See you
merrier.
anytime.
All right. Well, Logan, Matt, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us. I could sit here all night and talk to you guys about fire, EMS, things like that. So hopefully this is not the last time you will come on the show and talk to us. And
Yeah, we'll definitely be back.
thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.